So this is the game Nomads of the Steppe. It was inspired by Central Asia, created the last few years during COVID. So it all fits in this nice little box. There should be a bag of players of Nomads. So there are 7 players for the game up to, and then a bag of items of the resources or money, and then a rule book which has more information and all of the game tiles. Now I've set the board up in a 3x4 kind of a rectangle. It can be set up however you like, but this is a good way to try it out for the first time. And every piece has different things on it. So there are what we call terrain pieces that are on every single piece, and then there are also special ones. So this one has a bazaar on it. It's got a number on top. Then there are also mountains. There are meadows with a green tree in the middle there, and then lastly there is the village. So those are the special ones. I typically put those on the outside for the basic setup, but again, you can rearrange them however you like. Now, the main overall goal of this game is to move around the board collecting resources, then go to bazaars to trade those resources in for items. Those items give you abilities in the game, but also give you victory points. And the standard way to play the game is that the first person to 12 victory points wins. Now, I encourage you, once you play this a few times, then increase the difficulty to maybe 15 victory points or 24, or try the different gameplay styles. So on some of the cards there are some different things like alliances, where you team up, or scavenger hunt, or something called whiteout. Now, what do we do? So everyone needs to choose their nomad, and every single nomad begins on the village. So the village was this bigger building here with the camel. So everyone starts there, and then we go from there. The way it works, as nomads, you are only allowed to move, and you cannot stay put. So every single turn you must move, and the amount that you move depends on how many horses you have. So every nomad begins with 1 horse, and if you get 2 horses, you can move up to 2 spots. If you have 4 horses, you can move up to 4 spots. The way that you move on these tiles is that you can move to any tile, any terrain that is connected by red. So if it's orange's turn, they're on this tile here, this terrain here. They see that these 3 are all connected by red, so they can move to either of these 3, or also these 3 are also connected by red. Now, this terrain right here, there's no red connecting them, so they cannot move there, and likewise, there's no red connecting here, so they cannot move. So you have to have red actually touching and connecting the 2 terrains together to move. Alright, so the way you go is that you collect resources from the place where you start your turn and also from the place where you end your turn. So what are the resources? The resources, the tan color, that is the steppe. That's where you find our lovely sheep, which give you food. So the tan color of resource or money is worth a value of 1. That's from the steppe. Next we go to the things that give us fuel. So that's going to be the green for forest and trees, or the black for coal. So both of those will give you the green resource, which is a value of 2. Next we've got the metal, which is the combination of red and dark blue, and that is the red piece of paper. That's worth a value of 3. And lastly, the gold, which is the gold yellow colored, gets you the yellow resource, which is a value of 5. So that's the most valuable resource on the board. So again, you move around and you take a resource at the start of your turn and at the end of the turn. Now let's talk about how to move with other nomads on the board. So let's say that we've got our players here and it is red's turn. So again, every nomad, every turn you have to move, and we can only have 1 nomad on 1 terrain at a time. So let's say red wants to move into this coal piece. Well, orange is there, so orange is going to have to move. Orange can move to any terrain that's connected based on the number of horses orange has. Orange cannot, however, move into the bazaar. That's the one place that's forbidden when they're bumped out. Orange could move out and bump blue out of the way. Blue could not bump out red because it's red's turn, but blue could go anywhere else except for, again, in the bazaar. Also about the bazaar, if orange is in the bazaar already, red cannot kick orange out. So the bazaar is kind of the safe place. If you're in the bazaar, you cannot be kicked out. Now let's talk about the dice. So Before you start your turn, everyone always rolls the dice, and there are certain things that happen. It's not about how far you move, it's about bonuses. So let's say it is Red's turn and they roll a 4. If you look in the center of every single tile, there are dots that match the number on the dice. And so if whoever is on a tile with the matching number, so in this case of 4, they get a bonus. So orange is on the gold in that tile, so orange gets a free gold, even though it's not their turn. So that's the bonus. If a 5 was rolled in this case, both blue and red are on a tile with a 5 in the middle. So blue is actually on the meadow, which means blue gets a free horse, and then red gets a free food, because they're on the steppe. So there. Now, in addition to that, since it is Red's turn and they rolled the 5, at the start of their turn they get the food for the bonus. Then you always get the resource where you start your turn, so they get another food for that reason. They could then choose to move onto the mountain because they rolled a 5 and get a free eagle. So that's a really nice bonus. The same is true as if they happen to be near a meadow. They could move on and get a free horse. They could move back to the village and get a free camel. So camels you get at the village, the meadow you get horses, and mountains you get eagles. At the bazaars, if you are near a bazaar and it's your turn, you happen to roll the matching number, so in this case it's a 2. Red, when they move into the bazaar, not only do they get the free food at the start, they also then get this discount. So every single item at the bazaar costs 2 less. So that's a really nice discount there. There's one number though that's not on the board, and that is the 6. So if a 6 is rolled, it snows. What does that mean? So when it snows in Central Asia, which happens a lot, every single nomad has to surrender a value of 2. So that's either 1 green or 2 tan. If you don't have either of those, then you have to surrender something that's more valuable, but you don't get any change. And you might have to surrender an item if you don't have any resources left. So that's true of everyone except for if you are in the village where you start, then you do not have to give anything up, or if you own a yurt, you also are safe from the snow and do not have to pay. However, whoever rolls the 6, so let's say Red rolled the 6, then before they move, this tile gets flipped over, and on the back it is covered in snow. And so it gets flipped over, and that means that those resources on that tile are not usable for this round. The bazaar can still be reached, so you can still go into a bazaar and trade, but you can't get any of those resources. Now this is before Red moves, so Red could still move out of the snow, but they won't get that resource. The tile gets flipped back at the start of Red's next turn, so before they roll the dice again, the next time they flip it back over and we continue on normally. So that is the snow. Now let's talk about going into a bazaar and what you can get. So when you move into a bazaar, you pick up a negotiator card. There's one for food, fuel, metal, or gold. What they do is they increase the value of that resource. So if you grab the food negotiator card, your food goes from a value of 1 each to 4 each, which is a really nice upgrade. And you keep that negotiator card with you while you're in the bazaar, and you don't give it back until you leave the bazaar the next turn. So you use that and you do all of your purchasing. Now, on the item costs, those are the standard costs, and then you can buy as many items at one time that you can afford. And now let's talk about what they are and how much they cost. So the tools are they cost 5, and then on the back you can see they're worth 1 victory point. Again, in standard game you need 12 to win. So the tools work mining, so anything that's a mining resource, like coal, the black resource, or metal, the red one, or gold, the yellow one. Instead of getting 1 resource on your turn, you get 2. So let's say that Red has the tools, the shovel, so they pick up 2 fuel at the start of their turn. Then they move to metal, so they picked up 2 fuel. Then they also get 2 metal. So in that one turn, they pick up 4 items, which is really nice. However, there is a limit to how much you can carry. Remember, you can only carry 10 resources, 10 pieces of paper at the start of the game. You can increase that using camels, but the tools give you 2 each time. That's only for coal, metal, and gold. And you keep that the entire game. Next one is daggers. Those cost 5 also, and 1 victory point. But you have to have 1 horse or camel for every dagger, so you can't just have 10 daggers and 1 horse. You have to have 10 horses and 10 daggers. Now, What these do is you can attack or defend against other nomads. So let's say orange, it's their turn, they have a dagger, red does not have a dagger. If they move into red's spot to kick them out, before red relocates, orange actually gets to take one of their resources from them, because orange has a dagger and red does not. If red had a dagger, they can defend themselves and orange does not get to take anything. However, let's say orange has 3 daggers and red only has 1. Well, then when orange steps in, they actually get to take 2 things because they have 2 more daggers than red. So those are the daggers. Next up, let's talk about, good, we're still rolling. Let's talk about the horses and camels. Horses and camels are both a value. They cost 7, but they're not worth any victory points. The horse allows you to move further, so every horse means 1 additional space you can move. The camel allows you to carry more. So like I said, you can only have 10 pieces of paper at first. The camel will give you 2 more for each camel. The yurt. As I mentioned earlier, when a 6 is rolled, it snows. The yurt protects you from having to pay anything, so that's a really nice value. They cost 15 and they're worth 2 victory points. You can only have 1. The downside of the yurt is that they take up 2 spots. So instead of having 10 pieces of paper, you can only have 8. Now you can buy another camel to take care of that, but that is the downside of the yurt. Next up is the eagle. The eagle costs 20 resources, but they're worth 4 victory points. So that's a good chunk. Again, you can sometimes get it for free in the mountains if you're lucky, but you can buy it at the bazaar. However, in Central Asia, when they hunt with eagles, typically they're riding on horses or they own a horse, and so you have to have 1 horse for every eagle, so everyone starts the game with 1 horse, but then to get 2 eagles, you'd have to get a 2nd horse. The way eagles work, it is explained, all of this is explained in the rule book, and I will explain it now, but there are 2 options for the eagle. So let's say that orange has the eagle. At the end of the turn, after they've moved, so let's say moved from here to here, and they've picked up all their resources, then they're going to roll the dice again and try to steal a dagger from the other players. You have to have enough horses and camels, though, to receive the dagger. But so they're going to roll the dice. If they roll a 1 or a 3, they can steal from someone adjacent, someone connected by red, so that could be blue. If they roll a 5, 5 is kind of the best number in the game, then they can steal from anyone, anywhere on the board. That's what the eagle can do. Or if you don't want to steal daggers, you could just get a free food no matter where you are. In addition to your other resources, you get 1 free food. That even includes when you're in the snow. You can use your eagle that way. Alright, last thing you can buy, that's the golden armor. Each piece costs about 40 resources and they're 8 victory points, so that's a lot. And they keep you safe from daggers, and also, again, the standard game, you have to get to 12 points, so if you can get 8 from the golden armor, that is, you're already very close to winning. So that is the golden armor. Very last thing, the kolpak. This is something you cannot buy, however, you get it by having the most horses and camels, the largest caravan. So the first person to reach 3, so maybe 2 horses, 1 camel, or just 3 horses, they get the kolpak. But if then somebody else gets 4 horses and camels, then they get the kolpak. So it can just move around to different nomads the entire game. What it does, you have some benefits. You're kind of the boss when it comes to moving around. So let's say that red has the kolpak. Then when red moves into someone else's terrain, they actually get to choose where that other nomad relocates to. It has to match the number of horses, or less than that person has. But they actually get to position where they go. In addition, let's say, so if red wants to, if red has the kolpak, and blue wants to move into red's spot, red can actually say, no, sorry, I don't want to be moved out. So that's also the benefit of the kolpak, but it does not protect against daggers, so if blue has daggers, they could still use them against red, but red gets to stay put. Alright, so that's all. I hope you enjoy the game Nomads of the Steppe. There are lots of ways you can make it your own and be creative with how you set up the board or the way that you play with different gameplay styles, but I hope you enjoy.